was about to get ready for the presentation. For today, my computer decided to give up on me, and it was a real life experience of mind management for me. So I had to join you on my phone instead of my laptop. Anyway, I'll need your feedback as far as if you can hear me or not. So just let me know, because I'm new to presenting on Zoom on my phone. Anyway, thank you, hellomyyoga and the talented team at hellomyyoga for having me on this auspicious day. The topic that I've selected to talk upon is mastering the mind, or you can also call it mind management. The reason I took this topic is because ultimately everything that we do in yoga is about the mind. And our scope of discussion today will be yoga as it pertains to the mind. But as with every lecture of mine, I would like to begin with singing the Guru Mantra to start off. So join your hands. Inhale. Om. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, now why do we celebrate Yoga Day? Let me start by, why do we celebrate Yoga Day? Let me start by telling you what I feel Yoga Day needs to be celebrated and why it is important. Number one, even though the knowledge of yoga is ancient, it is still very, very relevant. Try to understand this. We all know it, but I want to say this again, that even though yoga is an ancient science, the things that we do in yoga and the truths of yoga are still very, very relevant. Relevant in what way? I just want to make one point here. Relevant in the way that the yoga promises. What is the promise of yoga? What is the promise of yoga? The promise of yoga is dukkha nivritti. Dukkha nivritti means release from suffering. I'm saying it again. Even though there are many ways in which yoga has been talked about, the many definitions of yoga given across the scriptures, the definition that is at the root of all definitions of yoga is that yoga is dukkha nivritti. In English, it is about release from suffering. Is it relevant? Of course it is. Of course it is. Beyond the stretches, beyond the scriptures, the aim of yoga is very, very fundamental to human existence. Why is it fundamental? Because the problem of suffering is a problem that has been thought upon by both Oriental and Occidental, that is Eastern and Western philosophers across thousands of years. From Buddha to Shankaracharya to the sages of Upanishads, everybody thought, reflected, contemplated upon the problem of human suffering. And the solution to human suffering was given by the Upanishads and the later scriptures as yoga. And that is why I feel that yoga becomes more relevant in today's time than even before, is because in some ways, our suffering that we are all going through on a daily basis is very, very real. And this is the promise of yoga, my dear friends. I know we all practice yoga in our own different ways, but I wanted to inform you the fundamental promise of yoga. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 6, Krishna defines yoga as dukkha sanyoga viyoga, the detachment from our attachment to suffering. We all need to appreciate this fundamental drive of yoga. Whatever we do in yoga, whatever we do, it may be asana, it may be pranayama, it may be mudra, bandha, chanting, whatever we do, the final aim of it is release from suffering. A hatha yogi may be practicing his asanas. A bhakti yogi may be dancing in devotion. A jnana yogi may be dissecting the grammar and the scriptures. A yogi who supports the view of Patanjali may be sitting and meditating. Whatever these yogis do from their own ideologies, their practice is ultimately aimed at release from suffering. So if you are yoga teachers out here, then don't forget the beauty of what we do. Now, where does the suffering originate? This is the primary question. If there is suffering, where is it? Isn't it? So where is the suffering? Let's look at this point first. Now, there are three components to our existence. What are they? Body, mind, and self. I like to call it self. I don't call it soul. Okay. In the Shastras, in the yoga scriptures, there are different names to it. Atma, Purusha, whatever you want to call it. So understand, the human personality is basically three-dimensional. And those three dimensions are made of body, mind, and Atma. Let's call it Atma. Okay. Now comes the interesting part. Body is regarded just as an extension of the mind. Understand that. Body is regarded as an extension of the mind. Means whatever happens in the mind will manifest in the body physically. Right? Nowadays, we call it psychosomatic disease or psychosomatic dimension. And it is true. You know the best example of psychosomatic influence? Arjuna. If you read chapter number 1, you will know the whole psychosomatic, storm that Arjuna is going through. So there is body, there is mind, which are very closely related. This idea was not popular in the West, but in the Eastern understanding, this idea is known that body, mind are interrelated and they affect each other. Now, what about the Atma? We discussed body and mind. What about the Atma? Now, yoga says that Atma is transcendental. Atma is something that can never be affected by your problems, dramas, suffering. No. Again, if you read the Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad, or any scripture of Hindu yoga, I would say, they would say the Atma is not affected. Do whatever you want. The Atma is always in bliss, Ananda. Now, if Atma is always in bliss, then does it suffer? No. So if suffering is not the subject matter of Atma, let's put it away. Okay? It has nothing to do with suffering. So Atma, you stand aside. Now what is left? Mind and body. But we saw that body is just an extension of the mind. So let's keep the body also away. Now what are we left with? The mind. We are left with the mind. Understand this, dear friends. And this is why in yoga, mind is given the most importance. The most. Whichever philosophy, whichever ideology of yoga you take, mind is given the most importance. This is why Patanjali says, the second line is what? He doesn't talk about the body. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. He mentions chitta. He wants to come straight to the point. So he exposes the subject matter of mind. There are Upanishads upon Upanishads upon Upanishads that are written about the impact of mind on our life. So much so that one of my favorite Upanishads says, Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha moksha yoho, means the mind itself is the cause of your bondage and release. Try to understand this. And the reason I'm pausing and the reason I'm taking it easy is because, you know what, we live in times where we are surrounded by techniques and we get lost in techniques. Today this asana, tomorrow that style, and then that, and whatever is popular we do, which is fine. But what happens is when we keep jumping from techniques to techniques, we forget the gravity of our project. So I want to repeat to you the gravity of our project. What are we doing here? We are sorting out the mind. And this is why when hellomyyoga asked me that what is going to be my, give me just a moment, okay, please. I am trying to still get on my laptop. So that's why when Hello My Yoga asked me what topic do I want to talk on, I had to talk on the mind, because I sincerely believe that working on the mind is the most important aspect of yoga, and that's what we are all doing. Okay, so just take a few deep breaths. I'm going to move from my phone to the laptop. Okay, just a moment. All right. Can you hear me? Yes?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Good. So now I will screen share finally, because I'll see if I can. You see, this is where the breathing helps a lot. When my computer gave up on me, I started deep breathing, and literally that helped me. Okay, just a moment. Yes. Can you see this? Good. All right. Thank you. So let's continue. So coming back to the topic, the idea is that we are working on our mind through yoga. And we have a good scriptural backing about it. Just a moment. Okay, so what we discussed was, okay, so here we go. As I said, the Yoga Darshana talks about Chitta Vritti Nirodha. The Upanishad talk about how mind is your source of release and suffering. Now, sometimes it is also called moksha. Okay, moksha means what? Moksha means release from suffering. You know, sometimes what happens is we give a lot of importance to heavy terms like moksha, nirvana. But for me, if you ask, yoga is all about release from suffering. Why it is release from suffering? Because it is our mind that is blocking us from enjoying our true nature. It is called Swarupa. Swarupa. Swarup means literally in contemporary English, Swarupa means true self. So there are two things that yoga talks about. If you are in a true self, you will avoid suffering. If you are not in a true self, be ready for repeated bouts of suffering. And this is the original intention of yoga. Understand this. This is the original intention of yoga. And that's why when people ask me, is yoga therapy? I say, yes, yoga is therapy. But the therapy of yoga is therapy of a lifetime. It is not a simple therapy of backache, neckache. The yoga therapy that we are talking about is therapy of literally rewiring the entire idea of who we are. Okay, why am I spending so much time in telling you the intention of yoga? Because somewhere I feel, again I am repeating this, somewhere I feel we are forgetting the original intention of yoga. Okay.
Prasad, your volume has gone down.
Volume has gone down. Okay. Now clear? Is it clear now?
Yes, better.
Okay. Now, if mind is the scope of yoga, how do we define them? Okay, so let us look at definition of the mind. Mind is understood as mana in Sanskrit. Okay, and what is this mana? Mana means something that thinks, believes, imagines. That's it. That's it. Something that thinks, believes, imagines. I call it processing unit. You see, body does not think. That we call it thinking body, but that thinking body is because of the power of the mind. Okay. Now, how does yoga see the whole complex structure of the mind? This is important. Because if you want to manage something, you should know how it functions. No, tomorrow, if you want to manage a company, you should know how the departments function. So, some sections of yoga give us a model called the model of Antahkarana. Antahkarana literally means the inner processing unit. Antah means in. Karana means a device, but still it is called, let's call it internal processing device. I'm using modern terminologies. Okay. Now, this internal processing device has four functions. What are those functions? Number one, manas. Manas means receiving. You see, there are 5 sense organs, and they are continuously giving us data. Continuously. This is one of the reasons for growing mental health issue in the kids nowadays, because they are overexposed to devices and screens. Like I don't want to generalize, but in my childhood, the television was hardly 2 hours, 3 hours a day. And that was our only exposure to the screen. And now I see myself 30 years, 40 years later, let's be honest, continuously glued to the screen. And it's not just the screen, the amount of data that is continuously going inside my mind. I may not be processing it. Like, people have a device in their ear, Spotify in their ears, and Instagram in front of their eyes. Imagine the discord in the brain. This is manas. Manas is just collection. It's like a market research agency. It just collects data. What is chitta? Chitta means memory. Okay, memory. It's a storage device. It does not process. Okay, understand this. Chitta component does not process. It is just the memory, just stores.
Then comes buddhi. This is important. If you ask me one component of mind that yoga wants you to really work on is buddhi. Buddhi means the rational, or the discerning faculty by which you know what is right from wrong, what is good from bad. Why should you stop at red signal? Why should you go at green signal? Is the processing done by buddhi. It's called rationale or the intellect. This is where the main processing happens. Then ahankara. Ahankara literally means ownership. Give it to me. The I. Okay, it's like this, you know. You walk into a ice cream store and your eyes will see your favorite flavor. The manas, okay? Now the manas is working. The eyes see now the processing is only at that. Eyes see butterscotch. And then immediately the ahankara will say, hey, I need to have that ice cream right now. Claim. Okay. So the two things that yogis actually work on, and I'm going to talk about this, how to manage this. So I'm just building it up to that. Okay. Is buddhi and ahankara. In the sense, they are inversely proportionate. If your buddhi is weak, ahankara is strong. If ahankara is low, buddhi is sharp. I'll give you an example. Simple example. Okay, my presentation today is simple, general, not for scholars. Okay. You go to a restaurant and that restaurant has a menu card which has 500 dishes. Which faculty of your antakarana do you need here to decide what you want to have? Buddhi. Isn't it? The buddhi will say, oh, which soup should I have? I feel a little cold, so I should have something nice and with spice. So then let's say the buddhi goes for spicy tomato soup. And then the buddhi will order. Buddhi will say, waiter, I want spicy tomato soup. So ahankara, ownership. But if your buddhi is all over the place, confused, this is what had happened to Arjuna in chapter number 1 of Bhagavad. You know, there are many people who cannot make a decision when they go to a restaurant. So they will tell you, you order for me. There are many people like this. And same happens with their life actually. Okay. They will come to you for decision. What should I do in such a case? This is buddhi. Okay. And that's why Buddha is called Buddha. Because he had mature buddhi. Right? So this is basically the whole system or the structure of mind. Again, I'm telling you, see, if you want to control something, you should know how it functions. And that's why I'm going into this. I could just give you, do this, but there's nothing new today that I want to tell you that you don't know already. I can confidently say that you know everything that I'm going to tell you. But the reason I'm here today is to make you realize the importance of it. This is important. We are not short of techniques. What we are short of in modern yoga is trust. Trusting that one technique and going deeper in it. This is what I believe, okay? You know, sometimes we practice techniques after techniques after techniques just to avoid going deeper. Just to satisfy our, you know, the manas. That's why it's called experience addiction. Today, this meditation, tomorrow, that meditation, then this pilgrimage, then that pilgrimage. Staying on the superficial level of experience rather than anchoring deep into realization. Okay. So, manas, buddhi, chitta, ahankara. This is how the mind processes. So I'll give you a simple example again of ice cream because I like ice creams. So I go into the ice cream store, my manas sees the ice cream flavor that I like. Let's say butterscotch. Then how do I know I like this ice cream flavor? Because it is already stored in the chitta. The information is already there in the mind. Sometime 20 years ago, maybe I must have eaten it for the first time, and then the data started staying in my mind. So I go, I see, butterscotch. I love butterscotch. Ahankara. Ownership. And then I look around on the 20, those, things with different flavors. And the ice cream guy, try this, try this, try this, try this. Now I'm confused. So what happened? My buddhi, it's called buddhi bhrashta. Yeah, my buddhi is a little all over the place. Oh, I like butterscotch, but should I go for mango? Strawberry is also good. Chocolate is amazing. This is what happens in our life on a day-to-day basis. Especially nowadays, when we are living a life of excess. We are literally living a life of excess, more excess than what our parents and grandparents had. And that literally chokes up our faculty of decision making. Buddhi is ultimately a decision-making faculty. The definition of buddhi is Nishchayatmika buddhi. Nishchayatmika means decisiveness. So now you see our suffering comes from all these 4 places. Understand? We are overstimulated at the sensory level. We have not made peace with our past memory. I'm just telling you the sources of suffering, okay? We are overstimulated. I'm just sharing my story. I stopped watching horror movies because, say, 8-10 years ago, I realized if I watch a horror movie, the same movie starts playing in my dreams. So I stopped watching horror movie. It's so interesting. The data of the horror movie went in my head, and then when I was asleep in the semi-conscious or subconscious state, that movie started playing. So that sensory data was already stored in my memory and just projected on my mind's eye. So at the sensory level, we suffer. At the memory level, we suffer. At the buddhi level, we suffer because lack of decision-making power. And ahankara level, we suffer because wanting to own too many things. Is this clear? Now we proceed. Now, after knowing what the mind is made of, let us understand the nature of the mind. The nature of the mind. Okay. So 2 things. I've just selected 2. Number 1, mind is very creative. Mind is very, very creative. That is his job, by the way. If the mind doesn't create, you cannot call it a mind, no? See, if your laptop doesn't have software processing capability, it's useless laptop. Same way, the first and very, very important aspect of mind is creative. It is creative. It just wants to create. There's a beautiful subhashita. Subhashita means a phrase in Sanskrit. It's called Yad Bhavam Tad Bhavati. Means the way you think, so you become. And it's not just a phrase. Bhagavad Gita also says, Sattva Anurupa Sarvasya Shraddha Bhavati. You know, nowadays they talk about brain plasticity. You must have heard of it, yeah? Plasticity means you literally creating your reality, and I really believe in it. Believe in that statement. Okay, so Bhagavad Gita, you see, at least 2,500 years ago, says Sattva Anurupa Sarvasya Shraddha Bhavati, means literally you become what you think of. In the commentary of Shankaracharya, he says your conditionings, your mental conditionings, he mentions the term sanskara. Your mental conditionings play out and create the world. You see, that's why mind is also known as the Shakti. It has this potential and it has to continuously create something out of that potential. We cannot go against this, by the way. Understand this, okay? We cannot go against the creative nature of the mind. Now, this is something I want all of us to realize, that each and every person here is creating a world for themselves where, here, inside our heads. Let us take a breath and allow that fact to sink in. We see what our mind shows us. We see what our mind shows us. We don't see what is. In philosophy, this is called idealism. I'll give you an example. Let's say you and a friend of yours are walking on the streets, and suddenly somebody comes with a beautiful dog, husky. They're walking their dog. Now you are a dog lover. So you go, oh, such a sweet dog. But your friend has dog phobia. She will run away. So what was the reality? Reality was dog is. But how did you perceive it? For you, it was the cutest creature on earth at that moment. And for your friend, it was a monster. Your friend suffered. You did not. And this is why they say suffering is subjective. Yes, there are mass sufferings also. Like tomorrow, there is no water in my building, the whole building will suffer. So, yeah, but in that, there will be degrees of suffering. And this is something we have to realize. The reason I'm telling this to you is because I want us to take accountability of the fact that somewhere we ourselves are responsible for our suffering. Sometimes you can, sometimes people, like they call first world problems, sometimes people have everything, stable job, a good relationship, money, honor, status, still they suffer. Something for us to reflect upon. That is because of the creative power. If you don't harness this creative power of the mind, it turns into self-destructiveness. You have to constantly employ the creative potential of the mind. If you don't employ it towards self-growth, it will employ itself towards self-destruction. Okay. Now, people in yoga, the students who realize this fact, and it's a very scary fact, isn't it? Tomorrow somebody says, you are 100% accountable for your life. It is scary. The yoga students who take 100% responsibility for their life are called adhikaris. And actually, Patanjali's Yoga Sutra is taught only to adhikaris. Students who have come to the teacher and said, teacher, I know I'm 100% responsible for my life and my suffering. I'm not going to blame my parents, circumstances, government, nothing. Okay, now teach me. And then Maharishi Patanjali will be happy to teach you. Okay, so number one, mind is very, very creative. You have to employ it in something purposeful, something meaningful. Otherwise, it's a ticking time bomb. You know, that's why one of the phrases I love in English, it's called an empty mind is a devil's workshop. Literally, it is. Now, the second point. Mind is active, restless, turbulent, strong. The Sanskrit term is chanchala. And in the 6th chapter, Krishna agrees. Arjuna says, how can I control my mind, Krishna? It is all over the place. Chanchala himana Krishna, he says. Mind is chanchala, mind is restless. How can I? And Krishna doesn't say, no, mind is not restless. Krishna says, I agree with you, Arjuna. Mind is very restless. So imagine the God, the creator of the universe, is empathizing with that Arjuna and saying, I totally understand what you're saying. Mind is restless, chanchala, but it can be regulated. He does not say mind is restless, just forget it. No, he doesn't say that. He says it can be regulated. How? Abhyasa vairagya, by practice and by detachment. So understand this. You see, if you want to master something, the title of my talk is Mastering the Mind. If you want to master something, forget mastering. If you at least want to regulate something, you need to know how it works. So by now we know the structure of the mind, manas, buddhi, chitta, hankara, and the function of the mind, creative and active. And all this is going on in mind that we have no idea where it is. You see how paradoxical our life is. We are discussing mind, but nobody yet knows where the mind is. Medically and also spiritual. There are different theories. Even in yoga, there are different theories. Some say mind is in the heart, some say mind is here, some say mind is in the nadis. Doesn't matter. Now at least we know the nature, no? We know the nature of the mind. Now, why should we regulate a mind? Because, and here comes my favorite line from the Bhagavad Gita. And this is straight from Bhagavad Gita, okay? An undisciplined person who has unregulated mind and senses can neither have resolute intellect, means buddhi, nor contemplation of true nature. Means a person whose mind is not sorted, will be all over the place. For the ones with unregulated mind, there is no peace. And how the one who lacks peace be happy? This is my favorite line from Bhagavad Gita. How can somebody who lacks peace be happy? If you want one sentence to reflect, like contemplate meditatively, this is it. Ashantasya kutha sukham. The one who is ashanta, without peace. Kutha sukham. How can there be sukha, happiness for such a person? A happy person may not always be peaceful, but a peaceful person is always happy. Try to understand this. I don't want to complicate, but simple example. I am feeling low, so I open my fridge and I eat half tub of ice cream. Happy. But am I at peace? No. This is what happens in addictions. I will not even realize that I just ate half tub of ice cream. The neurologist would call it a neurological high, dopamine spike. But am I at peace? Because tomorrow when the insulin crashes, I am back to my sadness. But a peaceful person may not show you that he is happy, ha ha ha. No, but a peaceful person will always have that inner calm. And for people like you and me who are on the path of yoga, it is even more important. So Krishna says yoga is difficult to attain for the one whose mind is uncontrolled. So if you are not on the path of yoga, then realize that mind needs to be regulated. If you are on the path of yoga, then realize that as a yogi, you have to regulate the mind. Because only a regulated mind is answer to suffering. Only a regulated mind is the answer to suffering. Now, look at this beautiful analogy. Okay, so they give an analogy of a charioteer on the horse. It's called Ratha Kalpana. Okay, and there is one Upanishad called the Kathopanishad, and it gives this analogy. By the way, this analogy was very common. This analogy was also given by Plato in his book called Phaedrus. So it was very common because people used to use horses and chariots and that. So the analogy is the body is the chariot. I did not get a right illustration. Okay, so I know it's not proper illustration, but still. Body is the chariot. Why? Because it's lifeless. Senses are the horses. You see, the horses are leading the chariot, just like our senses lead our body-mind complex. Buddhi is the charioteer, this guy. Mind is the reins, and Atma is the passenger. There's no passenger in this, okay? So excuse my art. But the important part here is mind and the charioteer. You see that? These two are important. The charioteer handles the reins. So there are two important components, the charioteer and the reins. This is what we need to understand. Buddhi and the entire mind is the reins. The buddhi will guide the mind. your understanding. For me, I use the word clarity. For buddhi, in my head and my teachings, I use the word clarity. When I have clarity, I have peace of mind. So this is just an illustration, nothing really, but just to give you an example. Now, our goal, and I would really suggest to all of you that take this as a 10-year project. 10-year project of calming down the mind. Why not? At least you'll have some purpose, it's nice to have some purpose in life. About the self, okay? We are experts at having purposes for everybody. Oh, I should do service and this and that. But when it comes to serving ourselves, we are a little miserly. So this is a beautiful, what you call, goal statement that Krishna gives us. So Krishna says, the one whose mind remains undisturbed amidst misery, dukkha, who does not crave for pleasure, sukha, and is free from attachment, fear, and anger. So what I've done is, I've summarized our entire goal of yoga in these 3 bullet points. Number 1, undisturbed in suffering. Dukkha. Now, remember, suffering is meant, like nowadays they say, suffering is mental and pain is physical. Okay, the physical component of suffering is pain. Right? So, undisturbed in suffering. Nobody, understand this, nobody is talking about removal of suffering. Have you noticed that? Because you cannot remove suffering. That's why if you study the life of saints and mystics across cultures, they have suffered. From our point of view, okay, they have suffered. For their point of view, they were lost in the state of God. You see? So you cannot avoid suffering. Understand this. There is no sorry, but you cannot avoid suffering. We can only manage our mind, and that means manage our suffering. So, number 1, Krishna says undisturbed. He is not promising eliminate suffering. No. Staying undisturbed in suffering. Number 2, unneedy. These are my words, okay? This is not pure Sanskrit, but just to make it simple. Unneedy in happiness. Why unneedy in happiness? Even Patanjali talks about it in the sense of raga and dvesha. Because, we get addicted to happiness. And life is not all about happiness. Like validation. Let's take an example. If you find a friend who's always validating you, well, he becomes your best friend. Not because of the friend, but because of the validation that you receive. Yeah. And then tomorrow the friend moves or goes to another place of work or leaves town. You suffer because now there's nobody to validate you for things you have not even done. This. Okay. And this is why I want to mention it here, that yoga is not a science of happiness. Many people don't like this when I say it, but I still want to say it. Yoga does not promise you happiness. Yoga is not a system to generate happiness. Yoga is a system to generate balance. We do not chase happiness in yoga. In fact, in the Kathopanishad, it is written, there are 2 paths, Shreya and Preya. The path of the pleasant, pleasurable, the path of purpose, path of ascent. So understand this, that we are not wanting to sway towards happiness, neither wanting to drown in sadness. You're just ready like a warrior. That's why spiritual messages have been given in context of battlefields in yoga. Not just Bhagavad Gita. Most of the Ramayana is about suffering. Most of Mahabharata, we glamorize the battlefield, but the description of suffering after the battle in Mahabharata is very, very heart-wrenching. So yoga is not giving you false hopes of a promised land. Yoga is giving you a very, very objective view of the world. So what is our project? Our project is staying undisturbed in happiness or sadness. Doesn't mean, it's like you win a lottery of $1 million, you will not smile. It's not like that, okay? You enjoy when happiness comes, but you be also ready with an understanding that this happiness will go. And the third point is untouched by attachment, fear, and anger. These three are known as gates to hell. In the Bhagavad Gita, attachment, fear, and anger are said to be the gates to hell. Okay? Now we will see what to do. So comes to the main point, strategy. Okay? So we will go through this strategy. But before that, if anybody has any questions, you can ask. Anyone, any questions? Feel free. This is a discussion. This is not some discourse. Okay? I myself am trying to manage my mind. So I'm no one here to tell you from a pedestal. So please feel free to share your views or ask if you have any questions. Anyone? No one?
Friends, this has been a very beautiful presentation throughout. And Prasad has given us analogies to continuously connect with our everyday's life event and understand this beautiful mind management thing. So I request everyone, if they have something, some episode to share,
Yes.
or some questions, please do come forward, unmute yourself and speak.
Yes, go ahead, please. See, Yoga Day is also a celebration. Huh? So just share your views. Let's celebrate together. Anyone?
Hello, sir. I have a question. Meghna here.
Yes.
So basically, like what you mentioned now during the session is yoga is not a science of happiness. So my question is with regards to this. So basically, how I look at it or how I understand is when we do yoga and we complete the the entire practice. Basically, at the end of the session or class, you feel the peace.
Yeah.
And the peace is nothing but a state of mind where you're happy.
Yeah.
So.
Correct.
So in that way, yoga is, giving you happiness, right?
Correct. But when you go back home to your family drama, what happens to that peace? Correct.
No.
So yoga, see, there are two things here.
Okay.
Yoga is not about happiness. Yoga is about lasting happiness. Understand this? Yoga is about ananda. Huh? Ananda means a lasting state of inner peace. Happiness will come and go. Yeah. So I am not discounting the fact that you feel happy after your yoga class. But does that happiness continue for next 1 year? That is my question. So what do you want to do? You want to take a 1 year pass for your yoga class just to feel happy 3 times a week? Or do you want to try to be in a stable state 24/7? I totally understand. I totally understand that we love yoga classes. We feel happy, connected, relaxed during our yoga class. I'm not at all saying no. What I'm saying is, does it continue? You know, when I used to conduct classes back in Mumbai, the students would love to hang out after the class just to postpone going back home. And I'm sure we all do that. Yeah, I have also done that. Just hang around the teacher, just sit around, because they know that once you go back home, you're literally entering a different world where, you just become everyone else's. On the yoga mat, you are yours. And that's also one of the reasons why we are happy on the yoga mat. Understood
Yes.
this?
Yes. This helps. Thank you.
Hi, Prasad. This is my question is like, first I want to give a little example that when we go on a grocery shop and when let's suppose we want to purchase a jam. So if there are, let's suppose 10 to 20 varieties of jam, then people are generally confused and people tend to buy only 20 to 30%. And when there is a variety of just 2 to 3 jams, then people tend to buy more, like 70 to 80% people will buy that. So is it that a lot of formats of yoga has come into the yoga world that is the way that we are confused, as you were saying, that we tend to like change all, like one day we want to do this, the second day we want to try another format. Is it because that a lot of varieties are given to us? And so this question.
Yeah. It's the, when you have too much of everything, the root purpose is lost. I'm not saying it in a negative way. It's just that we need to be reminded that why are we doing what we are doing? Like with food, no? Why do we eat food? To survive, right? But then people with our socio-economic class, in our socio-economic class, we don't really eat to survive, right? Understand this. Yeah. So sometimes, like, we have to sit back and take a step back and ask ourselves, why am I doing all this? And let me remind you, this is not happening only now, okay? If you read Hatha Pradipika, in Hatha Pradipika, Swatma Rama is saying, I am writing this book because there's too much confusion about yoga path. Then there is another scripture, Hatha Siddhanta Paddhati or something like that, okay? It also says that. So these confusions have always happened. It's not a new thing, all right? But as conscious yogis, yeah, as yogis with awareness, we have to take a step back once in a while and just tell ourselves that why am I doing all this? What is my true purpose in doing this? That's it. We just have to keep reminding ourselves. Okay. So thank you. I will go back to my presentation because I have 6 strategies for you. All practical, all manageable. Number 1, realize deeply that there can be no peace if you do not work on your mind. The reason why I've mentioned this is because, again, that same point that I was asked a question about. That we have to recognize the fact that we are suffering. We suffer at the level of body, at the level of mind. We have to really, really recognize it. It's something that we cannot avoid. Imagine, God forbid, you had a life-threatening disease. Your health will become urgency, isn't it? Tomorrow you do a blood report and doctor says, no, this is life-threatening. You will immediately drop everything and say, doctor, save my life. This is in the Shastras, it's called mumukshatva. You know, that deep yearning, release me from this suffering. So we have to, and look, how many ever are here, we all are tuned in to yoga, tuned into our practice. So we are all conscious yogis. And that's why it's my duty to remind you that once in a while, remind yourself that, oh, I'm doing all this to release myself from suffering. Unless and when your when your resolve becomes strong, you know, then the path becomes clear. Patanjali calls it Tivra Samvegana. Tivra means intense. There has to be intense longing. That's why sometimes, you know, sometimes you will read a lot about people, no, who go through big crisis and suddenly they'll change their life. So suffering also has its own importance. Second, and this is my favorite point, and I'm working on it since last 20 years. Make your mind your best friend. See, and that's why I've written this line: living with an enemy in your head is hell. However it is, you feel you're not good, you feel you're inadequate, you don't look good, you are not intelligent. Whatever you think about yourself, just accept yourself. Because these are ultimately just beliefs, they are not the facts. So first become your friend. And I'm not saying this. Krishna said this in chapter 6. Make your mind a bandhu. Make your mind a friend, a brother. It's very important. Otherwise, you know what? It's like a software with virus. If your mind is self-defeating, it's hell. And to resolve this, my strategy is be aware of your self-talk. I'm not going to tell you how to do it and things like that, but just be aware of how you talk to yourself, how you treat yourself. It's very, very important. This is a long journey, dear friends. This is a long journey, but at least try to, at least be aware. At least be aware of, ask yourself, how do I treat myself? You know, there are many people who are very good with others, but with themselves, they are very self-critical, over-ambitious, overthinking, hypercritical. I'll give you a funny incident, funny and sad both at the same time. When I do teacher trainings, I usually give a self-reflection questionnaire. And when I collected those self-reflection questionnaires, I saw that people were like criticizing themselves. So I called the batch and I said, why have you written so critically about yourself? So they said, yeah, but it's self-reflection questionnaire. I said, it is a reflection questionnaire. It is not self-criticism questionnaire. You see, means most of the people in that batch of yoga teachers, for them, self-reflection was self-criticism. There was no neutral way of assessing themselves. Very sad, no? So I'm leaving you with one strategy. Just be aware, just be that witness, the sakshi of how you talk to yourself. And just treat it as a survey. After a month, you will be like, my goodness, this is how I treat myself? No, I should change. And then the process will start. So be aware, because see, we are very, very good at what other people, how other people are, no? Like that's become basic content of our gossips, no? Why does she talk to him like that? Do you see how her mind works? Just channelize that to yourself. I'm not saying you are gossiping. I'm saying we all gossip. Okay. So we are nobody's holy here. Okay. Thank you. All right. So next. What happened? Okay. For some reason, this. Okay. Anyway, doesn't matter. Strategy number 3. One moment. Strategy number 3. It must be strategy number 4 there, but I'll see what happens. Breath. Use your breath. In Hatha Pradipika, it is said that mind and breath are two sides of the same coin. If the mind is moving, the breath is moving. If the breath is moving, the mind is moving. If the breath is calm, the mind is calm. And that's why one of the strongest way of regulating your mind is through the breath. And I've read a couple of studies in which the scientists say that it takes only 6 to 8 deep breaths. You see how effective this is. It only takes 6 to 8 deep breaths to flip your nervous system from fight and flight to rest and digest. Just 6 deep breaths. Shall we do that right now? Okay. So just close your eyes. Wait, not right now. We are going to inhale. I'm going to give you the count, so don't worry. We're going to inhale for 3 counts and exhale for 5 counts. Okay. Exhale through the mouth if you want, no problem. Though this is not standard, I am allowing you to breathe out through the mouth just for experimentation. Okay, so let's do that. Close your eyes, just sit straight, collect yourself. Inhale 3 counts, exhale 5. Okay, inhale 1, 2, 3. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1, 2, 3. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1, 2, 3. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1, 2, 3. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1, 2, 3. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Last one. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Slowly open your eyes. And check the saliva. Do you have more saliva in your mouth? Do you feel you have more saliva in your mouth? Yes. I'm not mentally conditioning you, but you have to check yourself. Why? Because this is the relaxation response. You see, when we are stressed, dry mouth, pale face, no? And when your nervous system is regulated, when your nervous system is in the rest and digest, that is the parasympathetic range, mouth is always wet, ready for the food. So let this be your strategy. Usually I tell people, and I'm giving you my secret remedy. Usually I tell people to take breathing breaks once every hour. So 5-minute breathing break every 1 hour of activity. Good enough to make you feel peaceful. Okay? Because brain and breath are neurophysiologically connected. It's not that difficult to calm down the mind in instant if you work on it. Okay? This is my #1 strategy, okay, in my own personal life. I really use the breath a lot. It's literally like a button, it's literally like a button on your nervous system. And you can use it in the opposite way also. If you take short breaths, you will fire yourself up, motivate. Sometimes you wake up in the morning and you don't feel like going to work. Just do some strong Kapalbhati. You'll be like, okay, let's go. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty of breath. Okay, use it for mind management strategy. Now, strategy #3, and this is very, very crucial. Remember, we spoke about input, right? Sensory input. This is called pratyahara. Regulate your input. I really love that people have started, digital detox is a thing now, and I really like it. People take time to go off their screens, and it's really nice. So input is at 2 levels, as I said here: food, ahara, like physical anna, food, and sense data. These are 2 inputs. Regulate them. In Gherand Samhita, Gherand Muni says, where sight falls, mind follows. So imagine how many times, okay, on social media, no, not social media, what do you call it? Online shopping. How many times have you bought things that you don't need? Yeah, this is exactly what Gherand Muni is saying. Where sight falls, mind follows. You're like, wow, that product looks good. Do I need it? Who cares? You buy it, right? So all that should, I'm not saying stop it, okay? Let's not deprive ourselves of the joys of life, but just regulate it, okay? Now the next strategy. I'm going to tell you how to regulate each component of the antakarna. The manas, we regulate it. Sense regulation is enough. Okay. So I would suggest that, you put that thing on Instagram, no? After 3 hours, your Instagram shuts down. They have things like, do that. Okay. It really helps. Okay. Now what to do with buddhi, intellect? This is my most favored suggestion. Define boundaries. I see that as Vairagya. Define boundaries in everything. Relationships, work, how much you want to work, how much you want to put an effort, how much you want to give, how much you want to take. This is not wrong, okay? Because even in the yogic philosophy, this world is looked at as a transactional reality. We have to have clarity. Otherwise, people will walk all over you. You walk all over people. So start by defining boundaries. This is what will sharpen the buddhi. It's like, friends call you, hey, come with us, we are going out. No, sorry, not now. It's my sadhana time. Oh, come on, you can do sadhana tomorrow. No, I will join you later. But right now from 7 to 8 is my sadhana time. This is important, okay? If you don't have boundaries, your buddhi, your intellect will not know how to regulate itself. Okay? Then the chitta. Chitta is memory. What is with the memory? Let go with gratefulness. Now, this is something that is difficult for many people. Letting go. But we are not just letting go out of anger and resentment, okay? Why? Not like this. Let go with gratefulness. That's why, in Bhakti Yoga, they call it Kripa. Kripa means whatever happened, I am still alive. I am still watching a yoga program. I just had my lunch or breakfast. Life is good. This is very important. Because understand this, okay? Memory is like a stone that you tied to your own legs. If you can't let go of the memories, you will have to drag those stone with you through life. Sorry for the gory image, but it's really like that. Sometimes some things in the memory doesn't allow us to move forward in life. And the last one, ahankara. Don't take yourself so seriously. Lighten up. Lighten up. Really don't take yourself so seriously, because you were different 1 year ago. You are different now. You will be different 1 year later. Nobody is absolute in this world. The greatest of the people have come and gone, and the world is still here, functioning as it is. Okay, so don't think too much of yourself here, and don't think too much of yourself here. Stay simple in the head, stay simple in your life. Don't take yourself so seriously. Okay, I'm saying this especially to yoga teachers. Okay, and the last point, strategy: slow down, chill, relax. Okay, how will you slow down? And that's why I've written here: realize transience of material prosperity. All that push that you're doing, all the effort in your life, ask yourself, is it for transient purposes? You will die alone. Sorry for this fact, but I'm just reminding you. Yeah, you may create a big palace and big things, but ultimately what you will take with you in the next life is the state of your mind. Remember that. You will not take your Duple flat and your Maserati. Yeah. So what is more important then is the state of mind with which you proceed to the next life. And the last point, do not attach your self-worth with productivity. This is a very, very post-World War conditioning from our parents' age. You know, the more productive you are, the more worthy you are. That's why we have been fed on ideas like he works 20 hours, he sleeps only 2 hours and things like that. No? We don't need that. We have passed that generation now. We don't need that belief system. That belief system had its role to play, but now we don't need it. So don't associate your self-worth with productivity. Step back from your productivity and try to find, who am I apart from all that I've created in this world? That's it, friends. 6 strategies only. Once you know how to manage, regulate your mind, you will be the master of your mind. This is called Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga means the one who has become the king of their own mind. Okay, so any questions? Please feel free and ask.
Prasad, we have a question from Deepa Tukral.
Yes.
In the chat box. It says, yeah. Prasadji, just curious to know why you didn't use Mahabharat image of Krishna and Arjun and the chariot with 5 horses for the representation of the Manas, Buddhi, etc.
Why I did not choose it? Because I did not find it on Canva. Simple reason. Okay, that's the illustration I found it. But you can. Okay, it's the same thing. No, there's no secret answer to that. Okay, anyone?
Good evening. Thank you for this.
Okay, yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prasadji, for this lovely information that you shared this evening. My question was, the strategy that you shared with us, is it a long process that you're saying? I mean, it's not so instant, right? Because we all have grown up with a set of belief patterns. So to break that pattern is also a process, right?
Yes. Yes, it is. It is not one lifetime job, okay? This is multiple lifetime jobs.
So from the few points that you shared with us, I think my little understanding of it would be the breath work that you spoke about could be a closer step to getting over our hurdles of our the way our mind thinks.
Absolutely. That should be a standard, because other things will take time, but breath work you can employ immediately. So it's a very good point, and thank you for reminding us. Others will take time, you know, memory and managing memory, managing all this will take time, but breath work is something that you have right now. So you have to do it.
And also, I would like to know that we are a few people who have become a little aware of this system that you are sharing with us. So it's an enlightenment for us, because probably they say when you're ready for such information, it just comes to you, right? So if we want to help people who are in distress, right? Is there any other simplified way to get through this?
Teach them the power of breath to manage their mind. People don't know this. You know, we all just did 5-6 breaths and we felt so calm immediately. Imagine if the whole world knew this. We have lesser agitated people in the world. Okay?
Because yeah. The thing is, the generation that we come from, few of us, I mean, we are varied ages in this group.
Yeah.
So we come from a generation that we are ready to learn and evolve, right? But the generation that we are witnessing, like our children, they're not at that generation. They are a very fast-paced generation. To communicate this knowledge, right? Is there any? I don't know how to put it, but is
You
there
do
a
it.
more simplified way to get
See,
them to, because they feel that they know it all, right?
yeah. That's, you can't
So
blame
it's
them.
very difficult to penetrate those minds
You
to
do it.
say that there's always something to learn.
Lead by example. See, if a mother is doing pranayam and father is doing pranayam every day, the child grows with pranayam, and the child is like, yeah, my mom and dad, they regulate their mind by pranayam. It's so normal, becomes consistent. So as parents, it's our responsibility to lead by example rather than sitting them and telling them at age 16, you should do breath work. No.
Okay.
Yeah. I know we are 1 minute beyond time, so whenever the moderators want, they can close it, but I am ready to continue. Okay.
It's okay, Prasadji. We have 10 minutes.
Okay, good.
So, yes.
So I'll
So
take
we can attend the
questions.
questions.
Thank you
Meenakshi,
so much.
yes. Meenakshi.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much, sir, for the insightful session. I have one query. See, in the process of learning and teaching, there is always like something coming up. We get to know about new scriptures, new learnings, new courses. A lot of things keep coming, right? And there is always a desire to know more, know more, know more. Somewhere it is speeding up the mind, and the mind is always distracted. I'm learning this, I'm learning this. Then how to control that desire? I mean,
Find a
there is
teacher.
always a need that I want to
Find
learn this
one
also.
teacher. Find one teacher, and when you find that teacher, all your questions will end.
So because then there is a question, okay, I should know this subject also. I should know this subject also. Isn't that the
Exactly.
right thing to be more knowledgeable?
After a while, all spiritual scriptures of all religions say the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why I'm saying, find your teacher. When you find the teacher, there is this assurance that now I've found the source of knowledge. So your worry ends. And then you calm down. So put your effort in finding a right teacher. And once you find that teacher, then you're like, okay, now this is the answer to all my questions. So I don't have to worry. Whenever my questions come, I will go to that teacher. Done. Then you will relax. And then in that relaxed state, your answers will come naturally from within. Teacher doesn't really teach. The answers come from within.
Till then, so I have to keep searching for the teacher, right? Because
Yes.
in that journey, I would find many people. I'm studying from
You will
one,
have
then
to
I'll study
filter.
from
You'll
the
have to
another one.
filter. You'll have to filter. Good.
Till then, I have to keep the search on.
Yes, that is an important part of a yoga seeker.
Thank you so much, sir.
You have a question, or did I answer already?
Namaste, sir. For the wonderful session. A lot of insights. Sir, one question which has always been with me, I have always enjoyed understanding Yoga Sutra since I have been introduced to it since many years. Now, back then also I had been under a mentorship of a very senior teacher, and the thing is, the more I understood and learned and related to Yoga Sutra, it always used to make me feel that, oh God, I mean, I am so lesser, or there is so much work to be done, and whatever. It kind of, put my naked self in front of me, and it used to make me feel much lesser. And then at that point, I was also asked by my mentor to assist him or teach him in Yoga Sutra classes. And I felt, sir, I can't do it because I feel meri aukadi kya hai sikhane ki, that attitude, which also comes today to this understanding when I learned from you that what am I in a state to, how can I share when I feel I'm nowhere close to even, the first step. So how do we, or
No,
how
Deepa, don't think like that. Yeah, don't think like that. This is esteem talking. This is not you talking. Okay. ऐसे मत सोचो सबकी औकात, अहम ब्रह्मास्मि है. We are all Brahma within. So किसकी औकात निकाल रहे हो? Yeah. So this is your self-esteem talking. This is not your inner self-talk. And in that sense, you will never know anything. No scholar will tell you, I know, I am a Paramadhyani. Okay? You will, and perhaps that's why your mentor asked you to assist. You see, to challenge your idea of yourself. So never, please, this is what I'm saying, never degrade yourself in your own eyes. See, I know your qualifications, Deepa. You have studied so much, you have studied sincerely or over so many years. Why don't we realize the value of that instead of, main kuch bhi nahi? These are all false statements of false glory.
So coming to that, since a year and a half, I stepped off Yoga Sutra assistantship with my mentor because of this state. And I said, sir, I don't feel confident. Just 2 days back, I got a call back saying that, instead of advanced level, come to basic level teaching, but come till you don't teach, the
Nice.
confidence is not
Very
going to
good.
come into
You have a
you.
good mentor. You have a good mentor. Continue with your mentor, please.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
Thank you for your
Sure.
mentor.
Thank you.